I'll call this meeting to order, and we'll go ahead and start with the roll call.
Great. So, Mary,
Here.
Catherine, I'll take that as a here. Jeanette,
Here.
Ernest,
Here.
Jessica,
Here.
Wolfgang,
Here.
Andy,
Here.
and Lindell.
Here.
And noting that I don't see Tabia on the participant list.
Okay. And so next on our agenda is the recitation of our mission. And so I will start us off. Act as a strong advocate to justice and equal opportunity by providing citywide leadership guidance in area of rights. All right. I always love doing that remotely. It's, just a completely awkward experience every time we do it. But okay, we move now to public comment. We welcome comments and questions and commit on our side to listening carefully and thoughtfully to what we hear. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. The commission requests that you refrain from engaging in personal attacks against staff or members, and ask you to focus your comments and questions on matters related to human rights within the city. So webinar attendees can use the raise hand function, and phone attendees use *9.
And we have one member of the public this evening, and I'm going to give Ange Khan the permission to talk. Hopefully this works. Ange,
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Hi, good people at the Human Rights Commission board. So I was calling in. I have a really big concern with the folks that are being housed at, or not housed, that are detained at ACRJ. They're experiencing an outbreak of COVID. There aren't any cleaning supplies. I'm not sure if you've been made aware of these things. I brought it to a city council. I didn't get a response. I'm asking that somebody please go check on the folks there, because they're saying that they don't have cleaning supplies. They're only, if you read Coomer's press release, they're saying that they only get cleaning supplies once a day. You're confined with however many people in a pod. Once a day is not ideal. I'm really concerned about the inhumane treatment. We know that prisons, jails, and detention centers are inhumane by design. So this doesn't surprise me. I'm trying to figure out if there is something we could do, possibly to get some folks in there to look at the conditions that human beings are living in. It's actually really it's very terrible. And city council has dismissed it. Basically, they're taking the word of Coomer on this, that everything is being done. We know that's not the case. Anyone that works in institutions such as these within the carceral system knows that this is not the case. And we're calling for the release of our folks, because it's unbelievable. They don't have sanitizer. At one point, there was no heat. It appeared as though the heat has been fixed in in the GL pod. The W pods were being used for COVID positive people. People that were positive were put back in the pods, and then when their test results came back that they were positive, then they were taken out. These are firsthand accounts that I'm relaying, and was asked to get some help because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And once again, I want to remind you, the folks in there are human beings. They have rights. And so if someone, I don't know who, could please check on them physically, go see them, put eyes in that space. And there's a lot of this well, we're at the lowest number. Well, no, the number could be a lot lower, right? It could be 0, but but here we are. And that's nothing to brag about. And then the numbers have went down, I heard today. And the only reason why the numbers went down is because they've retested them, and some of those folks are past their positive time period where their test would become positive. So that's nothing to brag about. Like, it's not like, oh, we reported this high number. Well, no, that high number that you have right now is higher than in the beginning of the pandemic. So there's a problem there. Staff there are COVID positive, and they're interacting. So who's bringing the COVID in? If people aren't able to move around, who is bringing the COVID in? And we know who's bringing the COVID into there. But so that's my main concern. Folks are saying that they're fearful for their well-being, and very scared. Again, they're we all know what jails look like, and they're confined in these places with no hygiene products, limited I'm sorry, I'm probably way over my time, and I apologize. But the gravity of how important this is when you have human beings with COVID, and if we're thinking about how we're functioning with COVID, right, in open air, right, and people are still getting it. Imagine being in a confined space and having folks saying, oh, I think we have this under control. No, absolutely, you do not have it under control. And that is a very vulnerable population of folk.
So you are past time, and
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no,
just
it's okay. I think we will want to come back to this later in the meeting, but I want to give the opportunity for kind of all of our public comments if there are other folks who want to speak. And then, no, that's okay. And then we can, I feel certain that members of this commission will be concerned about this issue and want to talk about it. But let's just see if there are any other individuals who want to speak from the public.
Sure,
And thank you
Sorry.
for bringing that to us.
Mhm.
So we have no other hands raised. Hansel Aguilar, from the director of the PCRB, has joined us as well as an attendee. So no other hands raised at the moment.
All right, well, next up is commission response to matters by the public. So this is the moment where we can talk about this issue. I will say I did see some numbers, I think from the People's Coalition, about the number of COVID positive people at ACRJ, and I was actually quite shocked by the numbers. They were very high. I had pulled up, tried to find them while Ms. Khan was talking, but I don't have the specific numbers, but it was something in the neighborhood of 45 individuals who are positive. So it is concerning. I'm not certain, and I'm sure other commissioners have thoughts. I'm not certain what action we could take, but it is deeply troubling to me.
And thank you for your comments. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing that to our attention. I was not aware. So I thank you for bringing it to our attention.
And I just checked, according to a news report from yesterday, Mary, it's 65 COVID positive in the jail. So it is
I saw something that said that it had gone down. But
yesterday.
But if it's 45 or 65, it's still a really large number of people. And I know we have a couple hands up. So Lindell?
Yeah, so I don't know this. Who is actually responsible for the ACRJ? Who runs it? Who is accountable for what happens there legally? Does anyone know?
Well, it's a regional jail, so there's a board that consists of representatives from a number of localities, including Charlottesville, but not only Charlottesville. So certainly, you know, Charlottesville city couldn't, it doesn't set policy, but it has representatives on the board. And
So
somebody
it's
may,
the board, is it the board then that we would be in contact with to put pressure on? Is that who, you know, who can we apply pressure to? I guess. Would it be the board?
I mean, that's my sense. I don't know if folks have other ideas, but that, you know, when I have in the past done some advocacy related to other issues, it has been with the board. Wolfgang?
My whole hand was to say, let's reach out to the board. There's 4 City of Charlotte's representatives that we could reach out to, one of them on city council. So I suggest that we reach out to them.
Sounds good.
And kind of how do we want to do that? Is it, you know, is it a letter? Is it asking for a meeting? What are folks' thoughts about how to proceed?
I have a question that I know I heard this brought up on Monday or Tuesday, whenever they had city council, but I never heard anyone respond. So I'm really kind of interested to know how city council will respond to this. I think that's maybe our first place to go as far as sending a letter to them, as well as any other board members that represent Charlottesville that are on that board with ACRJ. Concerning that, there is a thought that guards are bringing it in, but you know, that's still, you know, we don't know, but you know, that's a concern too. That may be a thought that's happening. I mean, I understand being short-staffed and everything, but you know, if you have to do, you have to do what you have to do to take care of everyone. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Okay, did you have your hand up again, or was that left over?
It was the same. I can add my 1 cent to Ernest's 2 cents
Okay.
and say that I agree.
So is it the sense of the commission that kind of step 1 is to write and perhaps speak to city council about this issue?
Is it city council or is it the Charlottesville board members?
I don't know who the Charlottesville board members are at the moment. Do you, Kathleen?
I do, actually. I put it in the chat and Jeanette added one that I missed. So there's a counselor, the sheriff, Commonwealth's attorney, Ashley Marshall, and we have a citizen rep who is Lisa Drain. So it would make sense to me to email all of them.
And by all of them, do you mean including the full city council?
We can include the full city council, but I mean, I think it's the board that has the most direct impact, right?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. I would agree to draft a letter and speak to council, but I am certain that at the conclusion of this meeting, we will have a new chair. And so perhaps it is an appropriate role for the new chair. So if we'd like to sort of push off the decision about kind of how to proceed and who will do that, we may be able to take that up. But Jeanette, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if anyone had, Ange recommended that we visit and see firsthand. And I think we would need an individual specifically to visit. I don't think you can just go visit. So I don't know if Angie would want to provide names, or if anyone thinks, like, I'd like to hear more about if that's necessary, or if there's enough research from the article and other things out there.
I do know that some prisons had stopped visitation for some period of time based on COVID. So I'm not sure. It may be possible. It may not be possible. I don't know about ACRJ. So it's something we could look into, and we would, I think, need to identify a person there, but that seems doable. Wolfgang, I see your hand again.
It was encouraged us to reach out to council as well. The next time that the authority board meets is in February, and this probably requires more urgent attention to it. So I'd suggest that we reach out to the board as well as to council.
That makes sense, and it seems to me, attending the next city council meeting and raising this publicly might also be useful, just as a way to kind of direct more public attention to the issue.
Well, as we move forward, if whomever is writing the letter, I would be happy to reach out to a few people from that list and just get some inside information, like if they visited, or like ask some questions about if Lisa or Councilor McGill has visited or anything like that, and just to find out some information to inform our letter.
All right, well, I think we could address the specifics later in the meeting under another section, and by then we will have conducted our elections, and we can make a decision about kind of who will take what role, if that makes sense. But I do want to thank Ms. Khan for bringing this to our attention. It's an important issue. Wolfgang?
Well, just that Ange has her hand raised again, and I wanted to just point that out in case there's opportunity for them to share.
Given that we didn't have any other speakers, I'm very open to the idea that she could speak again.
Her hand went down.
Okay. All right, well, we will circle back.
It went back up.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I couldn't see that.
Okay, would you like me to give her permission to speak?
Yes.
Sorry, just real briefly, that was an accident. But since you're going to give me an opportunity to speak again, I really thank you for taking this matter seriously, because when it was brought up to city council, they were just like silent. I can't stress this enough, that these are human beings and we all know that. So I thank you, and I will lower my hand and mute myself now and try not to accidentally press the button. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that to us. Next on our agenda is approval of the December 16th regular meeting minutes. Any discussion before we move to approve the minutes? All right, then we will vote by folks either.
Pause, because Jessica caught, in fact, very apropos. I think we added an extra, I think we had added an E to Ange's name in the public comment at one spot. So we'll fix that, Ange, just so you know.
All right, well, subject to that revision, are we ready to move forward to approve the minutes? All right, I will ask people to vote by either holding up their thumb or audibly saying yes.
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 All right, the minutes
Yes.
are, okay, the minutes are approved. So right before we get to officer election, we need to deal with the rules and procedures amendments. And so I think as some of you were joining, Todd was explaining that he didn't have the full gamut of proposed changes that was in the version that was made public. And so I want to propose that we consider only one of those changes tonight, because other changes need to be kind of republicized and made available to the public in advance. But the one kind of critical change I think that we've been talking about for the last several meetings that was included in the public document is a change to the quorum rules in 4.1 of our bylaws. And Todd, do you have them in front of you? I printed this out, but it came out in yellow and I literally cannot read this.
Yeah, no problem.
You-
So
you
it's
could-
it's on page 4 of the rules and procedures under conduct of meetings. And if you're looking at it, in red is the old language, which says 4.1 quorum. The red part says a minimum of 7 members of the commission, parentheses, quorum. And then the proposed language would be a majority of currently serving commissioners would define a quorum. So if that makes sense, if you're looking at it, I can read it again if you need me to, but that is the change. And this is obviously because we have a smaller commission by design of the ordinance, which is going to limit us to 9 members unless that gets changed again. And in addition, sometimes we don't have 7 in attendance, which would stop us from being able to do business. So
Yeah, and if we don't have more individuals apply, we won't have the full 9. Isn't that correct? Come our next year.
yeah, I think we'll be at 5 at the end of February, after February 28th. At this point, I have to check with Max to see if we've had any new applicants, because we did have a new opening for applicants.
And I've sent it to a few people, and I'm certainly hopeful that some people will apply. And if you are out in the public ether, like we welcome applications from, all kinds of folks. So our proposal is to change the requirement for quorum from the flat 7 members, which would be extremely unworkable in a commission of 5, to requiring a majority of serving commissioners to make a quorum. And I know we've discussed this before, but are there any comments or questions before we move on to voting on this? All right. This seems to me a change in the bylaws. We should take a roll call vote, Todd?
Yeah, that seems good. And just to make note, there in the chat, Jeanette is asking if I could say who's not returning. I don't want to maybe say that just without having consulted with the people who have said so already, but yeah, there are four people. Yeah, I will go ahead and do a roll call vote for this one, and start with Mary
Yes.
and Catherine,
Yes.
Jeanette,
Yes.
Ernest,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Wolfgang,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Lindell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, well, that's great. Next up, we do have officer elections, and I think I must turn this over to our nominations committee.
First, you turn it over to me.
Okay, I'll turn it over to you.
To
Todd?
Todd, yes.
And the last time I did this, I was pretending to be the director, and now I actually am. So I will chair us through the election process. And first of all, like you said, Mary, we'll give it over to the spokesperson for the election committee to present the slate of candidates first for the chair, and then we'll go through the whole process again for the vice chair per the rules and procedures. So I don't know if Jeanette or someone else from that group, Andy?
Yes, so I will present the nominations we have, and I guess I'll just go in order and ask the person we've nominated and ask if they are accepting of the nomination. So first, we have a nomination for, let's see, so we have for chair, Jessica Harris, and would like to ask if you would accept the nomination.
Yes.
Okay, and then the second nomination we have is for Mary Bauer, and I'd like to ask if you would accept nomination.
I think it is time for a new chair, so I will decline the nomination, and I look forward to supporting the new chair in absolutely any way possible.
Thank you, Mary. So we have one nomination for chair. I guess, do we need a second?
Yeah, so you would go ahead and make a motion to nominate
Okay.
Jessica, and then ask for a second. And then we'll move to ask if there are any nominations from the floor.
Okay, so nominate or move to nominate Jessica Harris for chair.
A second.
And then
Right.
to request any nominations from the floor.
Yep.
Lindell.
Actually, this is just a confirmation, but I did note that in the package, my nomination for Jessica was not included, and I just want to go on record and say that I did send that in, so.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, Lindell, that's my fault. I must have missed it.
That's okay. Well, I'm also bringing it up to make sure that it actually got through to you, because I did it from the new account, so.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I apologize.
Okay. That's okay.
Okay. And I think, one of the things we did last time, which is a deviation from the procedures, we offered the person who is, or people who are nominated, the opportunity to make any statements that they would like to make. And I don't know if that seems ceremonial only, Jessica, but you're welcome to present anything you have there.
It's a lot of pressure. I just want to say that I was like all in my feelings to see the number of nominations. I'm really nervous about this, and I was thinking back about when I was here last year and running for it. I'm glad that Mary was able to lead us. I just want to say, like, I want to do the work. It's been an honor to work with you all. Like, and I'm truly honored that you guys think so highly of me. I just want to be in full transparency that I'll need assistance. I have strength that I know I bring to the team, and I still want to use Mary and others that are really great at writing and drafting things. So just in full transparency, like, I believe in this work that we're doing. We've gotten into a really good groove at the end of the year, and I hope to continue the work with you guys. And again, I'm honored for my commissioners to nominate me for this, and I'm looking forward to furthering our work.
I think you have all our support, Jessica, in terms of, doing whatever needs to be done to make this commission as fantastic as it is. I think I'm speaking out of turn, but I do want to say that it's been a privilege to have this role for the last year, and I'm very excited about having a new face that we know so well, who will, I'm confident be a fantastic leader of this commission. I guess we have to officially vote though, huh?
Yeah, yes, we do. And
Yeah.
I guess I was supposed to make sure that there were no more motions from the floor and then close nominations. I skipped a step as well, so. And I didn't hear any nominations from the floor, correct? So I think we are closing and moving to the vote for chair. And so I'll do a roll call election, a roll call vote, if that makes sense to y'all. Okay. And let me write this down. Okay. So Mary?
Yes, is
Yeah.
it yes or no, or is it Jessica? Yes, I mean, yes to Jessica.
Yes, I'm sorry. And we have one nominee we are voting for chair, and that would be Jessica. Yes, if that was unclear. Catherine?
Jessica Harris?
Jeanette?
Jessica Harris.
Ernest?
Jessica Harris.
Jessica?
Yes, Jessica.
Wolfgang?
Jessica Harris.
Andy?
And Jessica Harris.
And Lindell?
Jessica Harris.
Congratulations, Jessica. You are now the chair of the Human Rights Commission. And after we get out of this election procedure, you will be taking over the meeting. So that's wonderful. And I am of course also here to be of support. So please And I will make mistakes so that you can feel comfortable making mistakes. So don't worry.
Congratulations.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to repeat the same procedure for the vice chair. Oh, did I see a hand up? I'm sorry, I was looking at my cheat sheet for a second.
You saw an erroneous click. I was
Oh, okay.
looking for the reaction so I could put up like a
Just
yay,
for real.
congratulations, and I raised my hand instead.
We'll take that as a celebratory hand raise.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to Andy, turn it back over for the slate of candidates for vice chair.
Yeah, so we only had one nominee for vice chair who is now chair. So the floor is open for nominations for vice chair.
And as I understand it,
what?
folks could nominate themselves. Is that right?
Yes, any nomination is available, yes. Wolfgang?
I'd like,
So last year, I think someone nominated Ernest and he said it wasn't his time yet. So I'm just checking to see maybe this is his time. So I would like to nominate Ernest.
Unfortunately, right now, I have not reapplied, and I have to do that. So that's why I haven't been in the of things. So, but I plan on reapplying and being there to support. So just full transparency, let you know, because I don't want to be in, yes, I definitely want to be a part, but just want to let you know. So, but Jessica, I'll be there for it.
Yeah, it's complicated. Does it, we can only nominate officially current members?
Well, so you are currently serving.
We're all
your term.
current, yeah.
We are current. So
Yeah.
I think, I don't know.
So as long as you could be vice chair if for some reason and you apply, and if for some reason council does not reappoint you, which I cannot imagine any reason why they wouldn't, but who knows? That would mean you would have a very short term, but you are able.
You're eligible.
You're eligible.
Yeah.
That's the word. Yep.
So yes, you are eligible. So if you would accept the nomination, I would also second that nomination as well.
If I am eligible to, then I will accept the nomination.
Hey.
Now I'm glad that we locked in that application too. That's
So Jessica, make sure you email me, text me, hey, you got it done yet? Because brother will forget.
all right, I'll send you a reminder.
Okay. Yeah. So any more nominations from the floor? If not, I'll close that. Okay. And
So I'll make a motion to nominate Ernest Chambers for vice chair.
Second.
great. And Ernest, this is impromptu. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to say. We've already put you on the spot a little bit, but you have that opportunity as well.
No, just my thing is I appreciate everything that I've learned, and again, everyone being such positive influences, and I'm glad we are starting to make some movements into letting people know that we're out here supporting them and we hear them, and we're doing some things like that that will hopefully make a difference. That people will not say, where's the Human Rights Commission? That we are here somewhere, and that we are hearing people, and we're trying to make a difference as best we can with the limitations or in the constructs of what is our city government. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Well, without further ado, I believe we could hold the election for vice chair for Ernest, and I'll do a roll call again. And I think you can either say the person's name or you can just say yes. But if you like saying Ernest's name, that's great too, because it's a nice name to hear. Here we go. Mary Bauer.
I enthusiastically vote yes for Ernest.
Excellent. Catherine.
Ernest Chambers.
Excellent. Jeanette.
Ernest Chambers.
Ernest.
Me, man.
All
Ernest.
right. Love it. Jessica.
Yes.
Wolfgang.
Chambers.
Andy.
Ernest Chambers.
And Lindell.
Ernest Chambers.
Wonderful. You are the new vice chair. Ernest, welcome. It's exciting to work with both you and Jessica. I'm excited about this. With that said, I'm going to turn the meeting over to our new chair, Jessica. So take it away, and I'm here to support.
Thank you, guys. It's truly an honor. Y'all got me over here. There's something in my eye. So congratulations to Ernest. Also, thank you to Catherine and to Mary for leading us and guiding us. So I like lost where I am in our agenda. Chair updates. I don't know, Mary. I don't know if I cannot default to back if she maybe had updates for today. I have none.
I do have one update, and that is related to the hearing, the public hearing that we had talked about and are planning related to the conditions in public and subsidized housing in Charlottesville. I had hoped I would have more of an update, but the meeting that I had scheduled with Legal Aid Justice Center and FAR had to be canceled because of the snow and the fact that some folks didn't have power for days on end, and we have not managed to reschedule that. So I had hoped that we were sort of targeting the last week in January. That seems kind of increasingly unrealistic, but I have reached out to FAR to try to get another date so we could talk about that. And I've, all of the sort of feedback I've gotten from residents and from FAR and from LAJC has been, very enthusiastic about having the hearing. So although I won't do it as chair, I will be happy to continue kind of working on the issue and trying to make this happen. And that's really, I think, my only update.
Yeah, Mary, if you could look me in on that, I'd love to. Thank you for championing that. And I'll turn it over to Todd for the HRC staff report.
Great, thanks, Jessica. So let's see a few things. You'll see the big report with the chart in there. All the data for 2021 is now entered. Go Lily. She works really hard to keep us up to date on that, and it's a tremendous amount of work given the number of things that come in and go out from the office. So all those numbers are there. Take a look, and it should be correct. But if you have any questions, please let me know. I wanted to just point out a few things in the report that you might want to take a closer look at. I did include some detailed information about the status of our progress toward becoming a Fair Housing Assistance Program, or FAP. Had a good conversation with the director of the Fairfax Office of Human Rights. His name is Kenneth Saunders. He's been there quite some time. They have a Fair Housing Assistance Program, and they have for quite a while. So he was able to offer some insights onto how the program works and answer a few of the questions that came up when I first talked with Allison and Ashley about any questions that they had about the revisions. And again, the revisions to the ordinance are numerous. It's doubled, I think maybe more than doubled the length of the ordinance, just adding all the substantial equivalents in for federal fair housing. So in any case, that's still in process, and I'm kind of awaiting a response from city attorney's office if their questions were resolved. There was even an offer to arrange a meeting with the county attorneys of Fairfax if they had further questions, because it does change their obligations to the process. And so that's a big deal. In addition, when I was talking with Kenny Saunders, we also talked a bit about internal EEO. And by that, I mean, while we can process employment discrimination complaints from outside the organization of the city. So from companies and businesses that exist within the city. We aren't able to do anything with complaints that come from city employees. And there was a recent example of that, the very public complaint that was filed by Chief Brackney. And so one of the things that I learned is that County of Fairfax does have an internal EEO process, as does the city of Charlottesville. But the difference is that they had I believe some sort of a consent decree at one point that obligated the Office of Human Rights to be the internal EEO for Fairfax County. Now, there's still a completely separate process and a completely separate policy that governs that. So it's just an interesting thing to note. If anybody wants to read Fairfax policy, he did send that over in addition to their human rights ordinance. But the important thing to note is that that is an internal process. They do an investigation internally, and then give the final report to the city attorney's office. If the person files a discrimination complaint with the EEOC because they are also a FIPA, that report comes back to the county attorney's office of Fairfax, and the county attorney passes that EEO internal report to the EEOC. So it's still a separate process. They do not actually investigate claims of discrimination in their power as a FIPA on behalf of Fairfax County. So it's complicated, but I did want to do that research because we have gotten complaints in the past from city employees and the most recent one. So there's that. The other thing to note in my report, case 2021-11, there's a correction there. I believe I noted that it's pending because the complaint was incomplete. The correction should be that the complaint is actually on hold at the moment. So that is where it stands. Other updates, Midway Manor, I think I probably did this before the last meeting, but I did send a letter to the owners of Midway Manor in response to some of the concerns that were expressed by community members. Midway Manor changed hands. Not only did it change property management, but it also changed owners within the last month or so. I figured out who the owners are, as well as the property managers, and I'm now in touch with both of them and got a response to my letter. To be honest, I haven't read it all yet because it's extensive and I've had a lot of other things happening, but it got the response this week. So I intend to pass that on to Midway Manor residents because that letter is a summary of their concerns. So in any case, that is still moving forward and that advocacy piece is still active. Last two things I'd bring up are .gov accounts. I believe everyone has submitted their security form and signed into their .gov account, which took us a little while to get it done, but we got it done. One of the things that you might be able to tell me in the meeting after I finish talking is whether we are ready to make the switch fully over to .gov accounts as our primary email account. I was talking to Lasheen a little bit before we started, and it sounds like the PCRB, which has the .gov accounts as well, it's the only other commission that does, still uses their personal accounts to receive the Zoom invites just because people check their personal account more frequently, or they had trouble forwarding the Zoom invite from their .gov to their personal account, something to that effect. But let me know if there's any reason you would like to keep your personal email that you provided in the mix of all the emails, and we can work that out with IT. But and last but not least, I believe we were considering a town hall and talking about how to do the outreach around that. Again, I'm going to give communications a little bit of a break. They're now a team of 3. They were a team of 5, and they're sort of figuring their way out. I haven't gotten a lot of detail on how we might go about how they might be able to support us in doing the outreach and surveys around that. So maybe when we get to later in, if you have any thoughts on how you want to proceed with that or timeframes on that, we can talk about that. And I think that's everything. And Ernest and Jessica, we should probably chit chat at some point just about your new roles and about planning a retreat, because we want to do that once we have our new applicants. So I will be quiet. That was an awfully long update. So thank you for bearing with me.
Todd, could you
So
tell us about your meeting? I'm sorry, with Anna Mendez about that issue that we had? I know there was an email about it, but just in the interest of kind of public disclosure.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. I had thought about that and then it slipped my mind. As you might recall, Mary wrote a letter to the director of PACHM, and PACHM is, oh boy, People and Congregations Engaged in Ministry. And what they do, and you probably remember, is that they among running congregate shelter, they also run congregate shelters for both men and women. They also run a emergency shelter out of the old red carpet inn called Premier Circle. And Anna Mendez had raised concerns about them not accepting people because of substance use disorder and mental health. And so we had a meeting with, Anna actually had a meeting with Jason Whitehead and actually PACHM's attorney. And I believe, I'm trying to remember who came, somebody came from Legal Aid as well. And I got invited just to listen in so I could provide a response. And basically what was determined was they do not intentionally screen out people because of substance use disorder. There's many people there who do in fact have that disorder, as well as mental health challenges. What they said was they do prioritize based on the CDC's guidelines as to who is at greatest risk for COVID infection in terms of deciding who gets priority placement at Premier Circle. There was some discussion around clarifying that because there's quite a list of criteria from the CDC and it's ever evolving. So there was some discussion around maybe narrowing it down to the, say, top 5, because that would clarify that substance use disorder and mental health do not rise to the top as, say, the top 5 high risk populations. And so there was discussion about that. I'm not sure where that currently sits, but that was the outcome of that conversation. And so that's basically in response to the letter. I don't think you actually got a written response. Is that correct, Mary?
I did not get
Okay.
a written response, and so I sent that follow-up. So I appreciate that information. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
So Todd, as a reminder for the community engagement that we wanted to have, it was still in your court because we put a poll together because we wanted to initially survey the public on what topics they wanted to discuss. And we had asked you what best place, something you were going to look into. And we had an idea of how we wanted to do it virtually, and was doing being able to do breakout rooms. So that was something we had discussed in not in our larger meeting, but in the our engagement committee meeting. And so that was also something you were going to look into with the communication team. So I'm going to put it back on you a little bit.
That's fine.
can
No,
gather.
what I hope to reiterate what I was saying was that I presented that to the communications team a number of times. And I think in the transition of Brian leaving and then Joe
Got
Rice
lost.
leaving, they weren't really able to give me a concrete answer about what platforms they could support, what tools they had. And so my question maybe to you is, how urgent does February feel? And if it can be postponed, if you could do it later, that might give communications a little bit more time to process the request.
Yeah, so I want to hear what others think from the engagement committee, but I think we initially planned it. We wanted at least a month's worth to put out the poll, so that would still push it into March. And so if we're on that kind of time frame, Jeanette and Lindell, do you feel that's enough time if we put out the poll for a month and then meeting sometime in March?
Yes, I
Okay.
would love to try to do that if we could.
So Todd, can you give us guidance on how to get that poll out to the public?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think we were talking a little bit about using what tools communications had. If you have, I'm not a super tech expert on that in terms of how you might want to reach out. I would love to revisit that with communications. Unless you all have any expertise in ideas of platforms we could use to get it out to the public. I know that communications has probably the broadest reach, and so I would love to circle back with them if possible. But if you had other ideas, we could talk about that as well.
Okay, let's just talk about it offline, I guess. I think it's like the poll has been drafted. It's a matter of like getting it through the proper communication line. I don't know if that needs to be in a formal letter that then goes out on our behalf. But we did have, Lindell did draft that. Catherine, were you about to say something?
I mean, shouldn't we ask folks in housing what the best way for them to get it? We can have the city send it out through its official channels, but is the question how to actually get it to the people whose input we want? Or is the question like what platform to use?
I think it's, so we're talking about two different things. There's one we want to do for the housing conversation. There's one we want to do just for a broader community engagement piece. And so that community engagement of topics we want to get out through the proper city channels. And I think once
Okay,
that's done, we can all do our part to put on LinkedIn, Facebook, our own respective ways. But I think it's more a matter of how to get it through the city, the most appropriate way to get it through the city channels.
I see, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, I do think that communications is the best. I mean, given their duties and their expertise, they would be the best, and I think it would have the broadest reach of anything that we could create, right? So I would love to circle back with them. I will reiterate the fact that you all understand that we need time to make that happen. So I will say, how about March instead of February, because we want time to get community input. And so I will resend that email to the communications team, and we can maybe I'll try to set up a meeting with them now that the dust has settled a little bit and the changes in staff over there.
Catherine?
Sorry, now that I've got it straight in my mind, can we put out a press release? I mean, that seems like one really good way to, once the cities put it out, that the Human Rights Commission put out a press release, and like Jessica, you do a little interview with local media.
And I can get us, I believe we used to do this, Charlene used to do this, is we would go over to the TV station, and they used to have slots where you could sit down and talk about a thing. I haven't used that in a long time, and I remember Charlene doing that. But I can also ask about that TV slot once we have it all set up and broadcast through communications tools, if that makes sense. Get to be on TV. Yeah.
No pressure though. Good thing I'm do public speaking for a living.
And can we make that somehow, put that form on a QR code or something like that, make it easy for people with mobile devices? Because everybody has a mobile device. And we keep it simple and do it that way, is what my suggestion is. And are we done? I have another question for Todd when we are done with this topic.
Yeah, I think, Ernest, once we get it out through the main channel, we could be creative about how other platforms. And I don't know, sorry, Todd, I don't think I saw any like upcoming community events, but maybe we can plan something with that, like being able to actually hand out flyers. I think multiple modes, not everyone's on social media and not on maybe like through those channels. And so also still doing some in person where the QR codes maybe possibly be really effective, Ernest, for them submitting their poll ideas. That's a good suggestion. Ernest, you had another question for Todd.
I did. So you brought up the information from, I guess it's Fairfax County, and their ability to do internal review of EEOC. Is that, or EEO? So
Yeah, I used a lot of names there, but yeah, I can clarify anything.
yeah, so you said that Charlottesville has a internal review or internal process. Are we not part of that? Is the Human Rights Commission part of that process? Here.
Great question. No. Yeah, so this is a process that's outlined in the personnel policies for the city. So if you're an employee, you get the big personnel manual, and I think it's mostly online now, but it's basically a grievance procedure, and discrimination procedures are in there as well. But that is it's an internal process to basically the human resources, and all municipalities should have something like that. Fairfax is unique in that that is handled actually by their Office of Human Rights, and they have a separate policy. It's not in their human rights ordinance. It's a separate policy that governs how they go about that. And they actually have a separate division. It's their equity division. So yeah, it's something that if you want to read the policy, I can circulate that with everyone if you want to see how they set it up. But it's a little bit unique in terms of how the Human Rights Office is involved. I don't believe it involves the commission at all. It would be a confidential personnel process.
Okay. And my question with that is, so how are we to respond, or do we respond at all to Chief Brackney's letter to us? Is another question as well.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's a complicated thing because the complaint, it was made public. I'm not sure I should be disclosing a lot more than that
Okay.
per what she shared, but yeah, that because it's for us, we don't have a mechanism to handle city employee complaints.
Okay.
The case is actually non-jurisdictional, unfortunately. But there are avenues, right? So any city employee can file with the Attorney General's Office of Civil Rights or directly with the EEOC. And the Attorney General's Office of Civil Rights is a FIPA, so they will dual file if you file with them as well. So that.
Okay.
I thought the Attorney General just fired the Civil Rights Division.
Well, they didn't
Yeah.
fire the division.
Well, they fired 30 people, right?
They did quite gut the organization. You know, I was just talking with somebody there today, and they're down to a pretty small number of people. They have no director currently. So yeah, it's complicated. If you recall Mona Siddiqui, who came to speak with us, so maybe a year or two ago, yeah, she was one of the people that got let go, unfortunately, in addition to the attorney that handled all the fair housing cases, which is very disappointing.
All right. Well, you asked more questions. I just want to know, was there any expectations of us with that being sent to us, that we need to do anything? So
Great question. No, you have no obligations on that right now.
Okay, any other questions for Todd? Next order of agenda, and then I'll get back to what we were discussing earlier about Angie's comments and how best to respond. But we have an action item to vote on a plain language resolution for the city to use plain language. We're starting to do it within our commission. Thank you, Lindell, for drafting this. We're just encouraging the city to adopt this practice. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to review the resolution. Lindell included a flyer, putting it, kind of summarizing it in English and in Spanish for distribution. So something we have to approve on, we have to vote on today. Is that correct, Todd?
Yes, this is the plain language version of the citywide language access plan ordinance that was,
Yes.
or resolution that was passed last time. That's correct.
So who'd like to motion to get this approved?
So moved.
Second,
Do we do roll call vote, Todd?
It's whatever your pleasure. I'm happy to do that if you feel better that way. I'm glad to do it.
I'm sure it makes it easier for transcribing. So let's just do it name roll call. That's
Okay, glad to do it. So this is for the plain language version of HR 21-1. Mary,
yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Jeanette,
Yes.
Ernest,
yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Wolfgang. Wolfgang still there? We'll put a pause there. Andy?
She just gave
Wolfgang
the
is
thumbs
saying
up.
yes, it just, there's an audio
Sorry,
problem.
my headset's broken. Yes.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Andy?
Yes.
Lindell?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution passes.
Hey, thank you for doing that. I have a question, Todd. So now that it's approved and just it's our resolution, but is there something then that we do with the resolution?
So what happens with resolutions is that in this case, I believe you're going to want to communicate this
This
to city council, that you would like to advocate for this. So that's a recommendation to city council. It's a resolution that the commission decides this is something they want to advocate for. Then you have to make some action to try to get this in front of city council so they can take some action on it. And of course, this will go. I'll clean it up and save a finalized version we'll change Mary Bauer's signature to your signature on this one. And we'll put the final signed version up on the city website for public.
Okay. Lindell, you have a comment?
I do, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to do it, but I thought I'd bring it up now. So I'd like to know if there are follow-up actions on this that I can help facilitate, and one would be having these translated into other languages. And we'd had some email exchanges about that, and I just wanted to see what the proper venue for discussing that further and trying to figure out a way to make this happen. Do we do that by email? Do we do it as part of our accessibility committee, that Wolfgang is leading? How do we, what's the process for that?
Let me comment on that. I think there was some emails circulated. I think Wolfgang, you sent me some information about the services that IRC offers. I've talked a bit about, or I'm trying to remember. I talked to somebody in procurement about potentially piggybacking on the translation services that DSS has. And I think the question was, maybe we need to define what all we want translated and to how many languages, that kind of thing, so I can figure out if we have enough money to pay for it. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Okay. So is this something that we could discuss? Wolfgang, would you mind if we discuss this as part of the accessibility thing, or does the whole commission want to talk about it? I guess that would be my question. Do we want to do it, come back to the commission with a recommendation? I don't know.
It depends on what you want to know. I mean, if it seems like it's a budgetary thing, but sorry, but
yes, I guess I was thinking, so here, I'll just throw this out here as a possibility, right? What would you need from us, Todd? Would you need to get an email that says, here's what we estimate. We estimate that there will be 3 resolutions a year. These are the 4 languages that we would like to have them translated into on a regular basis. Is there money for whatever that would cost? 4 times X number, is that what you would like to have from us?
That would be helpful. And if you have maybe even a list of the documents that you want to translate right off the bat, then that gives me a sense of like, okay, here's how many things we want to, and then we can maybe get an estimate for how many hours that will take, and then do the ones that are on the top of the list first, so if in case we run out of money. But yeah, something like that. It's a new process. I haven't accessed translation services before, so it may take me a little bit just to sort of get it off the ground. But once we kind of have a process for it, sure, I think that would be fine. Then a general estimate of like how many per year, and then we can know about how much it's going to cost. That would be great.
And would it be okay for me? Thank you. Would it be okay then for me to just try by email to just sort of get people's opinions about what languages we should prioritize? Is that okay to just do it by email? Is everyone okay with that? Or do you want to have a discussion about it?
Do we have data that, about, I mean, I can speculate about languages, but just about, I'm particularly interested in kind of the recent influx of refugees coming, but I beyond Spanish, I don't know what the top languages are. And I'm just wondering if we have data about that.
There was an email about that. Was it Wolfgang or?
I have anecdotal evidence from my work with IRC. I had reached out to IRC this past summer just to get an update, and they are overwhelmed and cannot respond to inquiries about pulling data. So I can give a best estimate of what we should prioritize, and I'm happy to do that like offline.
Okay. All right, I'll do a little research too then and see if I can get numbers. Maybe UVA has some research on that. But okay, and
it
then
might also, I wonder if it would be helpful to like see in court, for example, in city court, what are the languages that they use?
Okay,
It just seems like a place that is going to be clearly in the city that, you know, would see a swath of people.
yep, and maybe social services. No, maybe, you know, like Region 10, maybe. That's a really good idea, because that would be official too, right? The courts would have an official sort of list of languages.
We always use the languages that the school uses as well. That would be another place to look, the public schools.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's good. All right, I'll do that research, but in the meantime, if people want to send emails or, you know, with their ideas about it, that would be great. And then the last thing is, as we send this to City Council, again, I'd just like to offer, you know, I do have someone who is really big in this, who would be willing to come and talk to a group of people for an hour about plain language and why you would do it and have justification for it. If anyone wants that, I can arrange for that. And do we want to then tell City Council that we will do that as part of this effort?
I wonder if we want to make it part of our retreat. If that, I don't know if it's that much.
Yeah,
of
I
a
was thinking
priority.
about that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and the retreat is going to be virtual, is that right? So we could open it up to anybody and let people know that they could come to that portion of, well, I guess everyone could come to any portion anyway, but.
Do we, everything's virtual still, right? We're not allowed, even if we wanted to meet in person, we couldn't, right? Good.
Okay, yeah, I think having it at the retreat would be awesome. I'd love to do that. That was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendell. So I wanted to get back to what Anne was suggesting. We were thinking about drafting a letter. I wanted to know if I could get support in drafting it. I know, thank you, Catherine, for sending the info. If someone would help me volunteer in drafting this letter to send to City Council, would be really helpful. And I don't know if you guys can hear me. My something's going on with my internet, so every other person is like freezing on my screen.
Lindell, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
And lean on me for support in terms of putting it on letterhead and so forth, but I think we have all that stuff available.
Okay, thank you. So is that, just to clarify, is that okay with everyone that we're wanting to just send a letter to, oh, I heard multiple things. We want to send a letter to we want to send a letter to the board, ACRJ, like CCing or including the City Council. We also want to check in with the board or others that if they can virtually or if they've actually been there. Am I grabbing all of the things that we wanted to do as a commission?
I think we had talked about, you know, actually speaking at City Council, but I don't know if that makes sense if we've kind of determined that the board is really the target, but I, you know, I'm not sure what to do with that.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Yeah, there was a suggestion to speak to City Council just to have it like on public record to bring recognition to the issue. But do you feel like we should do both, like focusing our effort to speaking to the board and then still speaking speaking to City Council? What do you guys think? I agree to focus with the board, and maybe a letter enough to council is enough, but I kind of want to hear what you guys are thinking.
You know, my experience is that we don't get any attention when we just send a letter, and it's, you know, usually when I'd send a letter, then I would just show up and say, I sent you this letter, and then I don't know, but I felt like it, you know, then other people heard it and it was, there just was more response. So I'm inclined in that direction, to actually have you go and, you know, kind of share our thoughts.
Happy to do that. Okay, so again, everyone's freezing. So if you're trying to speak up, I'll pause for a second and just see.
I'm just nodding in agreement. I'm not sure if you can see that. I think a lot of us are.
Yes, no, it's like everyone's just smiling at me, like frozen, and like Andy right now is frozen and he's smiling at me. So I guess that means okay. So I'll work on drafting the letter to send to the board and to city council, and then I'll plan on showing up to mention this in public comment to city council. I agree that I think it's good to say, like, I've sent this to you. These are our issues and concerns, and just see what they say. Okay, moving along. Sorry, I'm used to being muted and moving other people moving it along. So bear with me as I'm getting used to this. So we will move to matters by the public. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak? And Ange, I think your hand has been raised, but I don't know if that's just a remnant from earlier.
Oh, took it down. So Ange is
Okay.
our only attendee at this point. And she
Okay.
just took her hand down, so.
Okay. All right, so there's no response to public comment. Moving on to commissioner updates. Are there any updates from you guys? Yes, Jeanette.
I just want to, I know we said this a little bit during the election place, but I really want to just extend my gratitude to Mary and Catherine for your leadership over this past period. Mary, especially the number of letters that you've penned on behalf of the commission. I think it was a critical way of increasing our communication and advocacy with council and showing up and staying on those meetings. And that's just a really important piece. And I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you. It's a tribute to how much I love this, that I sometimes stayed up past my bedtime to get my get the comments to city council. So I that's a part that I won't miss, because I do have a kind of embarrassingly early bedtime, but it's really been a privilege to work with all of you over the last year, and I'm so thrilled. I've told Jessica personally that, like, I'm happy to play any role I can in supporting her leadership.
Thank you, Jeanette, for that. And thank you, Mary and Catherine. Anyone else? All right, this is amazing. We're getting our meetings knocked out. So Todd, do I officially call the meeting? Do I have to?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
about there. I was
okay.
going to mention one more thing that I forgot
Okay.
in updates. So it's in my report, but the hiring process is underway. So I've gotten it closed on the 7th of this month. I've reviewed. I'm been told by HR I'm not supposed to tell you how many applicants I got. I have reviewed all the application materials, and so now I am figuring out the next steps in the process. But one of the pieces of that process is to form an interview panel, and I definitely want someone from the commission on that panel, and I was going to bring it up to the chair to say, ponder that, whether or not that's you or someone you designate, that is your prerogative. But I do want to make sure that there's somebody from the commission on the interview panel. And I'm new to the city's process with this, so I have to figure out how many people I'm allowed to have on the panel and what it needs to be composed of. So I get my next briefing on that probably within the next week. So anyway, that's just to make sure you know about that, but yay, we're moving forward.
Jessica, I'll take
Yay.
that on as long as it fits within my schedule. I'll try my best to be on that process if I can make it fit.
Okay, thank you, Ernest, for that. Anything else before we officially call it?
Thanks, Jessica and Ernest, for being willing to take this on. We're really going to be great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good. All right. We will officially call the meeting at 7:45 p.m. You guys have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.